Failing Smarter, Turning Setbacks into Advantage with Rachel Franco. Welcome to Failsafe's podcast, Human Performance and Latent Causes. I'm your host, Rob Statham, president of Failsafe-Network. Since 1985, we've been helping people learn from things that go wrong using latent cause analysis. And today we'll be speaking with Rachel Franco, the founder and principal of Fail Smarter. Uh, we're going to have a conversation about why most organizations struggle to learn from failure and how do you change it? What does it take to actually change that? So I'd like to welcome you, Rachel. I'm really glad you're here. I'm excited.
Thank
Welcome.
thank you so much, Rob. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, I am too. Well, tell us a little bit about your background in Fail Smarter. I love the name of your company.
Thank,
That was the
thank you
first
so
thing. Yeah, we're Fail-Safe Network, and I saw Fail Smarter. I thought that's genius. So tell
Why,
us a
thank
little
you.
bit about it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so
Yeah.
fail smarter because I believe there is a smarter way, right? There is a smarter way to fail, I guess in short. Um, so I would first say that my background is a bit diverse. I've worked at companies from Deloitte to Change Healthcare to Optum, which was part of United Health Group. Experienced a range of cultures and worked on a variety of initiatives, but the most impactful was my time at Optum and United Health Group and innovation enablement, where I was helping to foster a culture of innovation and build innovation skills and capabilities in leaders, teams, and individuals. And I highlight that because what I would notice was that, I could teach innovation capabilities, skills all day long, but if people were too scared to try or too scared to fail, right, they're going to be too scared to try. So they would leave my workshops or get my coaching and leave really excited. But then when it was time to take a swing,
Uh,
fear was kind of still running the show. And part of my work I had done though at Optum and Change was around learning from failure. I like to say I'm one of those oddballs who's passionate, who loves
yeah,
failure. Not because it's fun to fail, but because of course what it can teach us. And
yeah,
so I had an opening and I decided, well, I want to see if I can help other leaders and teams and companies not only reframe how they see failure, but better learn from it, and not just learn from it, but leverage it. And so that brings me to Fail Smarter. I like to say Fail Smarter helps leaders and teams better learn from and leverage failure to design better solutions while helping them create the culture needed to make that happen. Because when you think about it today, I know I'm going to talk to the choir when I'm talking with you, that right,
yeah,
there's pressure to innovate, there's pressure to companies are going through transformation, whether it's AI related or otherwise.
yeah.
And all of these things to use a casual word, right, require a culture of learning and experimentation and an openness to failure. Because anytime we're learning,
Sure.
thinking, doing something new, right, inevitably we're probably going to make some mistakes or fail along the way. And so that's I guess where Fail Smarter comes in, is to help teams reframe and transform failure into greater innovation and
That is,
transformation.
yeah, that's really exciting. That was one thing I noticed right off that both of our organizations share kind of a core conviction, right? Uh,
Yeah,
Failure isn't the enemy, it's how we respond to it, right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
let me throw out on the table a subject that people ask me about all the time, and I'm sure you get the question when things go wrong and they look into it and they try to learn from it and uh, they do a lot of hard work and they come out with lessons learned. Uh,
Yeah.
why do lessons learned struggle to actually bring lasting change? What
Yeah, I was
do you?
thinking, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, I was thinking about a few things as I was thinking about our conversation today. And I think a few things for me come to mind. Maybe you can tell me if you've noticed similar things.
Yeah.
And maybe this is not really in any particular order, but I think ownership and accountability, right? So a company, or a team, let's even just put it at the team level. They'll do a postmortem, right? They'll look into what went wrong, why, da 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 da, right? And they'll come out with the lessons. But if you don't give those lessons or the action items maybe to be taken based on those
Yeah.
lessons, an owner, a deadline, right? Maybe even resources like budget, et cetera, they're probably just going to remain lessons, right? They're not going to be put into place because what is that expression? What gets measured gets done, or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a similar concept that if there's no ownership and there's no accountability, that right, then something I think is less likely in general to get done. So that lesson is less likely to turn into something lasting if you don't assign an owner to it and some accountability around it. So that's one thing I think is a big thing. The
That
other is
that
to,
that
have
hits
you
a
found that
nerve.
too?
Yeah.
Have you?
Oh, yeah. That hits a
Yeah.
nerve with me because
Yeah.
that I think that's exactly what happens. They come out with lessons learned and they file it and they may share it, but people, individuals, sit there and look at it and go, "Yeah, I wouldn't have done that."
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not that. I don't have anything to learn from that. And when people have that mindset, then
Yeah.
they don't learn.
Yes.
They
No,
don't learn and
exactly.
it doesn't stick. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
agree.
sure. And
I
I think
agree with
another
you.
thing is, and I think we're going to talk about a little bit more and then probably a little bit later, but that's right. I hate the psychological
Yeah,
safety, right? If there's not a culture that allows for that transparency and for to really openly examine what happened, really coming at it, of course, from a learning perspective rather than a blame perspective, then the real causes might stay hidden, and thus the lessons might be kind of light and shallow, and I hate to use a blunt word, maybe, but useless, right? So
yeah.
it all maybe there's a foundational element of do we have the right culture in here to allow for a true and accurate and maybe meaningful postmortem as to what the lessons really are and what really needs to be done going forward. So that's another thing that comes to mind for me. I don't know if you found that as well. Yeah.
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly that you brought up psychological safety, and that honestly, from my point of view, working with different industries, and I've always my whole career I've always been a connector. I can talk to people in the office and I can talk to people in the field. That's kind of how I've come up, and
Yeah.
so I relate well. I'm a connector, and
Yeah.
when that term comes out, psychological safety, people that are familiar with some of the Amy Edmondson,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah. A huge
She,
fan of hers. Yes.
yeah, and there's so many other people that have done work with that, but she comes to mind. I mean, to me, she's probably the gold standard.
Oh, I
And there's
agree.
people that understand it and they understand the concept and they have an idea of what that means. But as it goes down and people just hear the term psychological safety, and you get out where things are happening.
Yeah.
Todd Conklin mentioned organizations like a stick. And
Mhm.
when things happen, it's at the pointy end of the stick. Well, when you get out to the pointy end of the stick and people hear that, they hear something completely different. It's soft. They
That's
they
what I was
think
going to say. I
they
think
think
there is. Yeah.
we don't need that. They think it's the buzzword of the year. It
Yeah.
means nothing.
Maybe we
And
need to rename it. I don't know. It's interesting you say that because I will usually start with that I think there is this perception that psychological safety is this like soft, ethereal
yeah,
term. And then I'll say, but it's anything. But I mean, because there's really hard data, and I'm gonna kick myself because I meant to have my stats handy because I always think that when there's something that ventures into the soft space, or if you have this perception that's soft and ethereal, that one of the best ways of combating that is to highlight data or highlight stats that kind of highlight something different. Would you bear with me a little bit? Because I think I actually have some of them right
sure,
here.
sure.
Um, Oh, actually, I have some on my website, but this was not what I was looking for. But I did find an interesting study. It was done about creating psychological safety in the AI era. It was a report from Infosys and MIT Technology Review Insights. And I'll just highlight one of them or two, maybe. 83% of executives surveyed said a culture that prioritizes psychological safety improves the success of AI initiatives, with 4 out of 5 leaders believing that psychologically safe organizations adopt AI more successfully. So that's just one stat, right?
Sure.
That's just one stat. And I know I've got some of my websites that there are tangible impacts on productivity or learning agility. I mean, it's a engagement, and it's a tangible, like a tangible bottom line difference and the impact of psychological safety. So pardon my not having those handy today,
Oh,
but
you're all right. No, it
yeah,
honestly, I have kids, so pardon my word picture here. It reminds me of one of those scenes out of Lord of the Rings where these two armies come out to fight, uh, and you have people that think of psychological safety as maturity, where people are actually they feel like it's welcome for them to be honest and open and there's no retribution and they're
yeah,
comfortable with that and they actually are mature enough to say, hey, I'm going to own this. This is on me. I need to learn. And people can celebrate that's who we are because people do make mistakes.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
And there's that army, which I think is kind of the intellectual side of psychological safety. And then the
yeah.
people that are trying to be told about it, they sit there and think that it's soft, and that's
And I
not who
wonder
we
if it's
are.
because I wonder if it's the nature of the term that it's got the word psychological in it or the
I
word
think so.
safety. You know, words
I
can be
do.
so powerful. Um, or maybe we need to call it a power skill. You know, how there was talk before about not naming soft skills, but naming them power skills,
Yeah.
you know, or
Yeah.
maybe there will be a day where do we need to rename it, although I doubt we would do that. But it really does. And I think also just from lived experience, maybe you could speak to this as well even from my own lived experience, my personal experience, because I like to say to people too, have you ever been on a team where you have felt like you had to walk on eggshells all the time, right? Where
Oh,
you could
yeah.
not, right? Where you could not raise your hand and say, I don't know, or where, because you were worried about looking stupid and, or maybe you had an idea, but you were worried that it was going to, get shot down or this or that. Right. And so
Oh,
I've
yeah.
been on both teams where I've had that, and then I've been on a team where I had such white space to create and to experiment. And I can tell you there's a night and day difference in terms of what the team that where I could experiment was able to accomplish and achieve versus the one where I could not, or where the rest of the team could not either, where we felt like we were walking on eggshells. So there is a tangible difference in performance and engagement and retention because the whole team left that leader, by the way.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. Most
Yeah.
investigation methods out there that I've had experience with, that I've seen from industry, even the frameworks themselves, they literally produce incomplete or sanitized
Yeah.
results, and
Yes.
they're ineffective because of that. They sit there and they struggle with how this is going to affect people. And I think part of it is the motivation's right, because most people have compassion for the people they work with, and the
Yeah.
last thing they want to do is put someone in a bad light.
Yeah.
So they're very careful. All of a sudden they think, well, maybe it's better for us not even to talk about this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what that does then is that it ends up hiding the very things that we need to learn.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
puts it drives it underground. And
Yeah, and it's interesting as you're talking, it reminds me of one of the myths we talk about misperceptions about psychological safety is right, and I highlighted this on my LinkedIn feed recently, is that I think one of the biggest misperceptions about psychological safety, right, is that it means it's being nice all the time, that everybody's got to be
yeah,
nice to each
yeah,
other. And what you were just saying made me think of that. And actually, it's not about being nice all the time. It's
no,
creating, right, that culture where we can
Be
practicing
honest.
candor. Yes, honesty
Yeah.
and candor, not
Yeah.
through a screaming match, but just respectfully and productively, and knowing that um, and that it's not personal, or we need to make it not personal, but more about what happened here. And sometimes that takes some coaching, I think, on how do you create productive disagreement, in terms of, right? So that's maybe where some coaching can help to whether help the leader get some coaching on how to facilitate that, or help the team members learn how do we engage in a productive disagreement or productive conversation so that it doesn't turn into finger pointing and, a screaming fight, if you will.
Yeah, my experience, most leaders, it's putting them in a place that they have to demonstrate the very
Yeah.
thing they want
Yes.
the team to embrace.
Yeah.
And leaders, depending on their experience,
Yeah.
honestly, uh, they'll get in a position to where they're hesitant to do that. They really want psychological safety within the organization. Just don't make me model it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the leader plays such a critical role
It
though,
does,
right?
and
I
I
mean,
think that causes
that's
a majority of the
yeah.
problems
Yeah.
because the moment you get that, people they watch the leaders in an
Absolutely.
organization, they look at the people next to them, and
Yeah.
if you don't do it, I'm not going to do it.
Exactly. I
And
agree so
yeah,
wholeheartedly. Yeah. If the
uh,
leader, I think makes or breaks actually a lot of things on a team, but
that
particularly this. Yes.
yeah, I think that
No.
silence, when people hold back or they bury something, I think what that's evidence of is a mentality or a culture of blame. Because
Mhm.
people are going, I don't want to blame someone for this, and I
Yeah.
don't want to be blamed.
Right. Yeah.
And
Because we immediately get defensive. As soon as you feel like you're being blamed for something, right, it goes to our ego, and then it causes us to get defensive, I think, right? And I always say
it's
blame and judgment are the quickest ways to shut somebody down.
it's
Um,
for
right? It's the quickest
psychological
ways to,
safety, it's kryptonite.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Yeah,
It's the
for
kryptonite for
sure.
psychological safety.
I agree.
And it's difficult because we tend to then just look at people and we gather a group together and go, okay, well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to blame. We're going to
Yeah.
own things. And everybody nods. I'm going to slaughter this quote. I just read it the other day. George Bernard Shaw said, one of the most dangerous things in the world is the thought that we've actually communicated.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
Something else like
I
that.
paraphrase that.
Yeah, yeah.
AI could probably come up with it exactly, but yeah,
Yeah.
and that's true, right? We sit there and we talk and we share words and we nod, but
Yeah.
everyone leaves with a slightly different understanding. And that's what I've found. You struggle. Many people struggles with all of this comes back like the root that you have to address at the beginning is blame. Uh,
Mhm.
and the problem is people do cause problems. People do need to learn. People do need to change. Can you learn? Can you be accountable without blame? And
Well,
that's
yeah.
unique from our perspective.
Yeah.
I'd like your take.
Well,
Can you have accountability without blame?
that's a great question. I mean, something's coming into my mind right now. I don't know if it's the perfect response, but as you're talking, I was thinking about, I guess I'll go back to quoting Amy Edmondson a little bit here, actually, that she also talks about praiseworthy versus blameworthy failures.
Hmm.
And, a lot of times we will hear that, oh, what is it? Celebrate failure, celebrate, da, da, da. Well, sometimes there are blameworthy failures, right? If someone, I don't know, did something negligent, let's say, and caused something to go wrong, well, that probably is blameworthy, right? But can you have accountability without blame? Um, I wonder if it's that you have to prioritize which is more important. Is learning from it more important so that it doesn't happen again, or is blaming somebody more important so that they're held? I think it also makes me think about different types of failure. there's something called intelligent failure, right? Right. It's done in the name of discovery. Well, you're probably not going to blame somebody there because that was done because we needed to take a risk here, right? We were testing something. Maybe it was discovering a new drug. Maybe we were designing a new product. So we knew maybe some things are going to fail. And so we don't want to, if we blame there, especially, um, you're going to shut down innovation
Oh,
pretty
it
quickly, right?
blame kills innovation.
Versus, let's say if a pilot, I don't know, turns this is an example in her book actually. A pilot forgot to turn the de-icer on an icy day and the plane crashed. Well, you could argue that maybe there is some blame there. Does that blame happen publicly, though? I think that's my first counter a little bit is that yes, maybe accountability is important for sure. But maybe it's how do you hold that person accountable? Maybe it's so let's say you've got a team. Do you hold that a person accountable in front of the whole team, or do you let's focus on what we're learning here? And then I can take the person who maybe it was maybe somewhat responsible. Maybe I take them aside and handle that privately. Let's just focus on the what happened here, not the who. Because as soon as you start getting into the who, that's when I think you start getting into finger pointing and what have you. And so I think it's nuanced, quite honestly. I think that's also what I would respond is that I think it's a little bit nuanced and it's not a straightforward response, actually. You have to, yeah, I don't know if I think it's a little bit nuanced.
One thing we do to handle it is blame. If from my perspective, blame is when I look at Rachel and I said Rachel should have acted differently. Rachel should learn something here, and that may be a true statement.
Yeah,
It may be. It doesn't help.
exactly. It doesn't
There,
help. Yeah,
it does not profit us at all if Rachel doesn't see that she played a part. If Rachel doesn't learn, that would help, right?
yeah,
And what I found in most investigations, I haven't found an exception to this. So, uh, what I found is there's always people that have a larger ripple effect. I'll go back to a tragedy that happened over 20 years ago. Texas City had a catastrophic fire and explosion that killed 15 people and left 180 people injured, blew windows out in houses 5 miles away.
oh my
And
gosh.
they immediately did a root cause analysis. All sorts of the Chemical Safety Board, everybody did, but BP did. And it came out that the operator didn't follow the procedure. They were bringing up a unit and he
Yeah,
didn't follow a procedure, and it led to an overfill, an overpressure, a release of fluid. Uh,
yeah,
it found an ignition source in this catastrophic incident. Well,
mhm,
everything there is true, but
yeah,
what when you dig down in it and what you really understand when you start to see things, see, we could, and the newspaper did, the headline came out blaming that operator.
yeah,
Can you imagine that?
yeah,
That's
okay.
why blame's such a serious issue
Yeah,
for me. It makes me sick,
yeah,
right? Because you look into it, and if you look into the rest of the investigation, he'd been there 11 years, and this was the eighth time they're bringing that unit up. And
mhm,
you know what he did different, Rachel?
mhm.
Nothing.
No, interesting. Yeah,
He was
interesting.
trained. Their procedure needed to be updated. The
Interesting.
whole
Well, and that's why it is so
his
important to,
whole
yeah,
career. And all he had done is he had brought that unit up the way they
yeah,
shown him to do it. And
yeah,
it had just never bit him in the past. So
yeah.
this is what I like to do.
Yeah.
I
Well,
like
no,
to
and
get
yeah,
the
but
stakeholders
that's
in
such
the
a great,
room.
yeah, exactly. It's why it
Get the
is so important to approach it
stakeholders
from
in
a
the room
learning.
and
Yeah,
go, did you play a part in this? I mean, how many people knew the procedure needed to be updated and lived with it?
yeah,
And then we wait for something to blow up and go, what'd you do?
yeah,
What'd you do?
yeah.
That's the problem with blame.
Yeah. And I think you echo why it's so important to um, come at it from a learning perspective rather than
Yeah,
a blame perspective, because what you're really after, right, is uncovering the root cause, and so that we can figure out that it doesn't happen again. And then you can also identify, well, was it that, yeah, the procedure needed updating? Is it a training issue for somebody? Is it this or is it that? But if you come at it, that's what you've got to come at it, right, from a learning perspective. It also made me think of that exercise that you probably have heard of it, the five whys.
Sure.
You're right. So if you keep asking why to get to the root cause, but so using some of these tools that can keep it, I hate to say it, keep it a little bit objective in a sense. So, right, we're
Yeah.
focusing on what happened, why did this happen, not on who did this, right? If you come at it, start from who did this, like we just talked about, you're probably going to shut people down really quickly and not get the honest assessment of what happened, so that we can make it better, so we can
Yeah.
improve it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where I think people having the right mindset that learning is more important here than blaming someone. We need to be accountable,
Yeah.
right? We all do need to learn.
Yeah.
That's where I think accountability comes in. We have to hold ourselves accountable,
Yeah, I always
right?
think everything, whether it's dealing with failure, whether it's anything, in our personal lives or our professional lives, I always say everything starts from within. Right? We gotta grow
It
ourselves,
does. Yeah.
that we are assured enough, to be able to not only, obviously it's easy to accept the good, but that we can also take ownership of the not so good sometimes. And I think that if we can all take that courageous look within and do the self work. I hate to sound soft and
No,
ethereal, but
I,
it's so important, especially for leaders, by the way. The more I think you know yourself as a leader, the better a leader you're going to be.
yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you wholeheartedly. It's
Yeah.
critical. That I think is at the crux of true psychological safety. And
Yeah.
I don't know that it trickles down, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that message gets to the field. And that's the struggle. I think that's the Lord of the Rings battle that's going on
Yeah.
between ideas here, getting pushed back and forth.
Yeah.
Because it's so critical that we understand that we do need to learn, we do need to improve, we do need to change, and we need to do that in a way that we begin to grow together, right?
Yeah.
Because it builds trust. That's you're talking about leadership. Uh,
Yeah.
leadership's based on trust.
Yeah.
That's
And we talked about role modeling. So I did a
yeah,
workshop around how to talk about failure with ease versus angst, and it was geared toward leaders. And one of the top things is, as a leader, you need to be talking about or sharing your own mistakes and failures with your team, because then you're making it okay for your team to do that as well, right? Because you want them to be
yeah.
bringing mistakes or failures, we'll say, when they're smaller and maybe still fixable, more easily fixable than when they get really big.
Well,
So, yeah, that role
we're
model. Go
I
ahead.
hate to I think we could go on and on. I hate to shut us down, but I think we should maybe schedule more time to talk.
That would be
I
great.
certainly want to put out. I think I'm speaking for Rachel too. We welcome conversations with leaders
Definitely.
who are ready to understand this, to move beyond blame, understand how to actually apply psychological safety to help build a culture that actually learns. That's something that we certainly have in common. And
Definitely.
yeah, I hope everybody in the future agrees with your company name that we want to fail smarter.
Way to
Uh,
Fail Smarter.
yeah,
Yeah. I
that
like to say, don't just learn from the failure, leverage it to do
yeah.
something, to create something better.
So
Um,
what's the best way to follow you, to get a hold of you, to contact
Sure.
you?
Yeah, so they can learn more about Fail Smarter, and I guess me at my website, www.fail-smarter.com. But also they'll notice at the top of my website, if you want a quick snapshot of how well your team learns from and leverages failure, you can either go directly to my website and you'll see a link to it at the top. You can take the FIQ, I call it the FIQ, the Failure Intelligence Quotient Quiz, or you can go to www.fail-smarter.com/quiz, uh,
Okay.
to take the quiz. And
Oh,
it takes 3 minutes, but it gives you a great snapshot of where your team falls in terms of how well do we really learn from
I
and leverage
yeah.
failure here.
Oh,
So
that sounds fantastic. And you're on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn. Yes, they can
Okay.
find me. They can find my company page there, or they can find me there
Okay.
as well.
Okay, great. Great.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Rachel.
Thank
Uh,
you for having me.
yeah, and learning about Fail Smarter. We look
Too.
forward to more conversations
Yeah,
in
I
the
would definitely love
future.
to talk again.
Yeah, all right. Well,
Great.
I'd like to thank everybody for listening to Human Performance and Latent Causes, and joining Rachel and myself, Rob Statham. Until next time, I hope you keep learning from things that go wrong, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Goodbye.